Okay, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started. Some other people may be joining shortly, but we want to go ahead and get started. So this is the second session for Georgia 811 system migration to GeoCall. We are sharing our screens, so I do have this video. We do have video going on at the moment as well. This call is being recorded and we will put it on our website next week. So if you're listening on the phone and would like to see the screen that we have or the recording, it'll be up on the website next week. As we go through this session, please place your questions in the chat. We will be taking breaks to answer them throughout this call. So what we're going to go over this week are the major changes. So all this information is there in the documentation and in the downloadable files, but we wanted to go over those and just sort of guide you through those main points this week. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. One of the major changes is the idea of overhead tickets. So with GeoCall, overhead service areas and underground service areas will be tagged in different tickets. So when a normal ticket is created, it won't include any overhead only service areas. When a ticket is being taken, the CSR will prompt to ask the caller if overhead protection is required for the project. And if so, then they will create an overhead ticket as well. So if you have a service area that is both overhead and underground, you will receive the normal ticket plus the overhead ticket as well. So that's one of the differences in just how Eden works and how GeoCall works. Okay. So large projects. Large project tickets will be broken up into two different ticket types. The first one is the large project meeting notice. This will have the meeting date and location on it, as well as all the other relevant information. This ticket will have certain responses available to it. Those responses will be whether or not you agree or disagree to the meeting. Some of the codes in the 10 range that you're already familiar with, those are the ones just related to the meeting itself will be available for this ticket type. Okay. Once the meeting has occurred, and based on the meeting date on the meeting notice, that ticket will expire that day, the day of the meeting, and then the next ticket type will be created and sent out, and that next ticket type is the large project excavation notice. So you will receive the large project excavation notice, and that will begin a period where you will be able to respond with whether or not you're going to treat it as a large project, as well as the other 10 codes that are available, if it's clear, things like that. Once you've responded with those, then if you are not going to treat the project as a large project, then that starts up a cycle on the ticket where every 30 days you will be notified to remark. So the first one of those will go out immediately, or I should say, it will go out right after you indicate if you're not going to treat it as a large project, then you'll be notified to mark the facilities within 2 days. Then at the 30-day mark, you'll be sent, this excavation ticket will be resent to you with another code in there telling you to remark again. Then at the 60-day mark, that's going to happen again. So that covers the last 30-day period on the ticket. So you'll mark a total of 3 times just as you do now. So that is a difference between Eden and GeoCall. So in Eden, you would get a normal ticket generated off of the large project ticket every 30 days. In this case, we're resending you that ticket with a new code on there, a new system code that we explained a little bit last time, indicating to letting you know to please go out and remark. Okay. And just a reminder, if you have any questions as we go through, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them. We will be taking breaks to talk to answer those questions. The next type of ticket is a cancel ticket. So GeoCall, the way it handles a cancellation is we issue a new ticket, and that ticket refers to the ticket that is canceling. So I'm going to bring over the HTML sample that we'll talk about in just a little while to show you what this might look like, right? So this is in the documentation that's available to you in the downloads, and this is what a cancel ticket looks like, which I'm highlighting on the screen for you now, okay? And the relevant part is right here. So this is a cancel ticket, so it has its own unique ticket number, and it will refer to the ticket that it is actually canceling as the previous ticket. GeoCall is also, it will put codes on that previous ticket, the ticket being canceled, so that if it's still active, if it's still within the 2-day period, it will immediately drop that off of your list of tickets to respond to. Okay, so it puts on system codes or a system code, right? It will put a system code on the previous ticket so that you won't have to respond to it, and cancel tickets themselves are also not respondable. You do not have to respond to it. We're sending you the cancel ticket to point you to the ticket that's being canceled, and so there's no need for any responses on a canceled ticket itself. Okay. And so Matt has made a good point here. Yes, so the main difference between Eden and GeoCall is that Eden uses the concept of ticket versioning. So instead of sending out a version of the ticket which cancels the ticket, GeoCall does not have that. So no ticket version, so we need to use another mechanism. And so the way GeoCall handles it is handles cancellations is through cancel tickets. Okay, let's talk about ticket numbering. So ticket numbering in GeoCall, we've set it up this way where it's the date part and then a serial number. So it looks like this. So you have the 2-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and then a serial number. Okay, so the serial number resets each day. So the ticket number is uniquely identified by the date and then the serial number within that date. Okay. All right. Questions so far. So we've got one. So we are outsourced. I'm assuming that's outsourced. So, and have been asked to sit in on these meetings. We may need help on interfacing with city network infrastructure. Look like much of this content is not related to this. Is it possible for us to only sit on the meetings that are relevant to interfacing with city network? Yeah.
They're looking for pretty sure they're looking for the XML stuff.
Yeah, that's all in the documentation on the website. So there's a lot of technical detail on how to implement that in the documentation. And we'll be going through more technical detail here. So if you're outsourced, then you can provide the links that we have in this presentation at the very end to who you're outsourcing to, and they can also contact me directly so that if they have any questions with the formats and the implementation, they can get with me on that. Okay. All right, let's take a look at each one of the formats. So the email format, which I showed you in the documentation here, that's what it looks like. The red text here is, when you read the document, you'll understand what that means, but that's the actual name of the field. So you can see some of these don't have a label right in front of them, and so we put the field name right next to them so you can see what those field names are. But this is not a plain text email as you see in Eden. It's HTML. It should be a lot easier to read. And as the document explains, if you do parse it, there are some data tags in there that will help you do that. So the format is a little bit different, but this shows the cancel ticket here, but all the relevant information is in these tickets. And at the end of this, you can see there's a sample of each one of the ticket types here in the document, and then we go into detail here at the end of it what the field definitions are. So each one of these, if you look at the respond by, you can look down here, look for respond by, and you can read what that means, right? So all the definitions for each one of the fields is here in the documentation. Okay, so the samples are in the Word document for the email, and you'll see when we get to the XML, it's just not efficient to do that. So the XML samples are in a different folder in the downloadable files. So we also have the daily audit. This is very similar to what you see in Eden now. It's text-based email format. It lists the ticket type, number, sequence number, and totals of the tickets. And I'll bring up the sample for this is also in this document. I'm going to run to it really quick. All right. And bring that up. So the daily audit format, you can see it here, and it starts from there and goes down. So you can see that the audit format shows you the type, and these are just abbreviations so that we can fit it in a reasonable width. You can see the sequence number, the ticket number, and the status. And down below is a sum by ticket type. And then at the very bottom, you'll see the total. And then the legend here at the end of the audit format defines what each one of these abbreviations mean, but it's pretty straightforward. Okay. And so the actual technical details of each one of these formats is also contained here. So for instance, with the audit section, we don't really have line numbers because you can see line numbers wouldn't make a lot of sense because we have all these tickets. So line number would depend on how many tickets you received in a day. So we call them line types. So the line type number 1 is always going to be from George 811. Line type number 2 is going to say audit for and then the audit date. Right, and so that's why you'll see line type here and what the sample is, and then line descriptions, and you can see what these are. Right, so we try to define this as clearly as we can for you. So there's 4 different sections. This is the header, ticket list, and then we've got the summary, and then finally we've got the legend, which is always going to be the same there. So that is the audit format. XML format. So this is the most detailed one. It's the most technical and the less pretty one. I will open one up. To show you. This one is difficult. So the reason why it doesn't it's not easy to put in a Word document. Why we put them separately is because of this. So this looks like the ticket, but it's not really. I'll explain what this is in just a moment. But this is the XML part of it. You'll see here all at the top. This is what GeoCall generates. And you can see that, for instance, the ticket number here is within these markup tags called ticket number, and then the actual ticket number. See, it just jumped on me. The actual ticket number is contained within the ticket number opening tag and the ticket number closing tag. And XML, this is how it looks. And so when GeoCall creates it, it doesn't put any carriage returns or line feeds, so you don't see it broken up. It's all mostly on just one line, as you can see there, until we get to the ticket text. And that's what this is. So the ticket text is a rendering of the ticket in a text format. So we brought this over from Eden. Eden has the same thing. We brought this over from Eden because one of the programmers from the ticket management system explained to us that they actually use this to send or to forward that information on to locators. So even though they receive the ticket and they actually parse out the data there, that it was really important for them to still have a representation of the ticket that they could forward on. So that's what the ticket text is. And this format is also detailed in the documentation. And that uses the same concept as the line types in the audit format that we have defined. Hang on, I'm scrolling up, but it's obviously it's a lot more details. There's a lot more information there, but you see the line type and then a sample of what it is, and then at the end of it, description of all the line descriptions and what would be in there for that rendering of that ticket. So that's in there as well. So we'll go into the next section. So all the samples are included in the zip file because they just don't work in a Word document. The web posting, how these are sent, is also changing. So let me get to the next slide here. There we are. So the web service is REST-based instead of SOAP-based. So we're doing or GeoCall does an HTTP post to a web service instead of doing a SOAP call to a SOAP-based web service. The XML document that just showed you is in the payload of that HTTP post. It's in the body. And we do support authentication, so it's username and password. When we do a post, GeoCall expects to get an HTTP 200 response, and that may be a little bit different if you're used to an HTTP put that actually would return a 201. So that's one of the things that just to be aware of, that GeoCall does expect an HTTP 200, not a 201 response. So that's just one of the main things that are one of the critical things we want to point out. If we get anything other than a 200 response, GeoCall is going to try to resend that ticket because it's going to think that it did not post correctly, so that there was an error. It will try to repost. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. I also want to remind you that there is a form on the website that you can use to submit questions to us, and we did receive 2, and we'll go over those in just a moment. Is there a test endpoint for the web service? Not yet, but there will be. So we're currently working on a test server for you. We expect that at the end of this month that we'll be able to have that for you. And you would be able to we would be able to post to you or to send to you, and you should be able to respond. Now, the response API is also documented in the documentation and in the sample code that we sent you, or that's available for download. Okay. I'm going to continue on. Matt, I see that, so you can't hear anything. I'm going to remind you also that this will be available. As soon as we finish, we're going to finish up recording, and then we'll have this posted on the website as well. And if there's anything specific you need, then you can reach out to us as well. So Larry, you say you receive tickets through email now. Will that change? No. So if you receive tickets through email now, when we go over to GeoCall, you'll receive tickets by email as well. So that's that HTML format that I was talking about earlier. So they look a little bit different. It's a little bit easier to read than just than a fixed width text format. So for instance, we can bold the labels so you can distinguish the label from the actual data right next to it. So that usually makes it a lot easier to read. Okay. All right, so we got 2 questions in between the meeting, the first session and this one. One of them is, when will user training begin for the new GeoCall system? That's still being developed. When it's ready, an announcement will go out to everybody, letting you know when the training is available. I think I can share with you that there is going to be a lot of video training available, and they're going to be broken up into shorter videos instead of having one longer one. You will be able to review like a 5-minute video on the first part, and then you can go on to the next video. So the team is working really hard on that, and as soon as all that is ready, they will reach out to all the members. Is responding to tickets going to be that much different that we need training? So the portal is different, and how you would look up the tickets. I mean, all that stuff is sort of changing. You'll open up a ticket and add a response to it. So it's the way GeoCall does it is different. So it would be a good idea to review that training just to see how it is done. Okay. All right. Will emergency locate tickets be able to be made via the web? So we had this question last time too. Yes, if you are authorized to do so. So this is a permission-based thing. So if you are authorized, if you are able to do it in Eden today, then when we move over to GeoCall, you should be able to do it when we move there. Okay. To receive the order from GeoCall system, we would need to receive it only through email or through a post REST. Yes, that is correct. So we can do email, and we can do a RESTful web post to a web service. Those are the 2 outputs that we support. Would it be possible to set up an FTP folder where we could have a host exchange? That's something that we'll have to take back to the group. Right now, we don't do that with Eden. Yeah, we don't do that with Eden. I think that what we're trying to do is migrate the system and get it ready and handle what we currently handle through Eden through GeoCall. I will say that the web service is, I think, a better solution. And I'd recommend you take a look at that because there is that receipt in that HTTP response, so that we know you receive it, and we can easily test to see if your web service is up. And we have that resend capability built into GeoCall. With the FTP, we would have to research that, and that is definitely a post-launch kind of thing that we would want to take a look at. Okay, when submitting a ticket, will the process be the same as it is now? We go to a website and enter the information in. Yes, so GeoCall, you'll still have a website to go to where you can submit a ticket. So you start up a new ticket and enter the information and submit it. Okay, so what I have on the screen right now is a link to our resource page for the GeoCall migration, and I have highlighted here where the sample code and documentation downloadable files are. So you'll see it in the quick links section on the right, and you see the sample code documentation. You click there, and you'll download the latest version of that information. I want to make I want to let you know, if you downloaded the files the first time, or right after the first session, there has been an update. The audit format wasn't initially in that document. It is now. So the specification for the daily audit plus the sample is in that documentation now. So if you downloaded it before we released that last Friday evening is when that went out or updated. You can download that file again, or you can download the files again, and you have access to that. Okay. Okay. That is all I have for today. I want to say thank you. I appreciate you joining us on a Friday afternoon. Crazy Friday afternoon. If you need to contact me, my email address is on the screen. It's gabernathy@georgia811.com. If you use a third party for ticket management, they can contact me. And if you have any issues with documentation or code samples, you can contact me as well. I prefer email initially, and if it does require a call, I'll gladly schedule a call with you so we can work on anything you need together. Okay, so I'm going to do just one last call for questions. And just remind everybody that between these calls, you can go out to the site in the previous slide, and you can also submit your questions there. Okay. So it looks like we have no more questions. So, okay. We have no more questions. So thank you all very much. I appreciate you attending. And if you have any other questions, we'll submit it on the forum, or you can send me an email. Thank you all very much. Happy Friday.